Welcome to Statistics. Chapter 1 is our introduction to statistics and covers a lot of terminology that we'll be using throughout the course. I'm Professor Peoples, and let's get started. First, let me remind you what's due this week. By Friday of this week, you should have watched the course introduction video and completed the feedback form for Lecture 0. For all other weeks, there's only one lecture video and feedback form due. Also, you should have completed the Chapter 1 video lecture and completed the form Lecture 1. You're watching the video for Lecture 1 already. And I will take attendance based on your course activity each Friday. On Tuesday, you should have finished the discussion board for post number 1 and completed your Chapter 1 assignment. The focus this week is on statistics literacy. Here's the objectives for this chapter. At the end of this chapter, you should be able to recognize and differentiate between key terms that we'll cover. You should be able to apply various types of sampling methods to data collection. And you should be able to create and interpret frequency tables. Let's start with some key terms. Statistics is either the plural of statistic, that is, numbers that describe sample characteristics, or singularly refers to the subject of study. In this context, it is defined as the science of designing studies, gathering data, classifying, summarizing, interpreting, and presenting that data. But there's two types of statistics that we'll use. Descriptive statistics includes the procedures for collecting, classifying, summarizing, and presenting data. These are things such as charts, tables, averages, and some measures used to describe the data in a study. To be of value, masses of data are condensed or summarized so that the resulting information is concise and effective. Statistical inference, on the other hand, is the process of arriving at a conclusion about a population parameter, usually something unknown, on the basis of information gathered from sample statistics, things that we do know. These concepts allow an analyst to estimate an unknown parameter of interest. You need knowledge of statistics to help you do the following: describing and understanding numerical relationships and making better decisions. In that sense, statistics is more of a science than it is a mathematics course. Probability is often used to study randomness, and there is experimental and theoretical types of probability. More to the point, we're interested in studying populations and samples. A population is a complete collection of measurements, objects, or individuals that we're studying, while a parameter is a number that describes a population characteristic. A sample is a portion of that or subset of that population, and a statistic is a number that describes that sample statistics. So, for example, perhaps the mean age of the population of students in the course is 30, but the mean age of 7 students sampled is 33. The mean of 30 is a parameter, meaning that the entire population was used to calculate this number. The mean of 33 is a statistic, meaning that it represents only the sample and may or may not be close to or equal to the population mean. In another example, the Gallup Corporation collected data from 1,013 adults in the United States, and the results show that 66% of the respondents worried about identity theft. The population consists of all adults in the United States, whereas the parameter is the percentage of the population that is actually worried about identity theft. Our sample consists of the 1,013 polled adults, and the statistic is 66% of those respondents. The objective is to use the sample data as a basis for drawing some conclusion about the entire population. A variable is a characteristic of interest for each person or thing in a population. Data itself is the actual values of the variable. A mean is a measure of the center of data. Sometimes we call it an arithmetic average or just the average, whereas a proportion is a fraction or percentage of the data with the relative characteristics. Gathering data is the first step in the process of statistical problem solving, and data can be classified as either qualitative or quantitative data. Qualitative data, also called attribute or categorical data, are things such as gender, political affiliation, citizenship, things that are not numbers but describe characteristics. Attribute data are often assigned code numbers before entered into computer databases, and these numbers are for identification purposes only. You couldn't calculate a mean, for example, of a UPC code. Quantitative data, on the other hand, is sometimes called numerical data and represents counts and measurements. A variable is a characteristic of interest that can be A value for a variable of interest is typically found by either counting or by using some measuring device. We further divide quantitative data into two data types, discrete and continuous. A discrete variable is generally one that has countable or finite number of distinct values, whereas a continuous variable is one that can assume many of the countless numbers of values along a line or an interval. In this sense, when we classify data, it's helpful to note that we can divide up the data into these different categories in order to help us choose the correct type of statistics we should be doing. More to come in the second video.